no.
Going on with Charlotte. Oh, not much anything. This, I don't know which ends up in.
Call the meeting to order. And, we need a motion to go into closed session A5, A7.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like
Yes.
to make a motion based on Code of Virginia, Section 2.2-3711. I believe we also needed A1 personnel, A5 industrial business prospects, and A7 legal. Is there anything else that we need?
Mr. Chairman, I believe you'll need a motion to add A1 to the agenda for consideration, and you'll need a vote by
All right. So
body before you enter.
then I guess I would make a motion that we go into closed session
No. Do,
to add A1. To add, based on Code of Virginia, Section 2.2-3711, to add A1 personnel matters to the closed session agenda. Did I do that right?
motion on the floor. Is there a second?
One second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
And then, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we then go into closed session to discuss A1 personnel matters, A5 industrial business prospects, and A7 legal.
Motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
More discussion? All those in favor? We're in closed session. I'll call the Board of Supervisors meeting to order. First thing I need is a motion about closed session what we discussed in closed session.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion based on the Code of Virginia, Section 2.2-3711, that we went into closed session to discuss A1 personnel matters, A5 industrial business prospects, and A7 legal.
Motion on the floor. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor? Need a motion?
Sorry. Go ahead.
I need a motion to adopt the agenda.
Make that motion.
Wait just a second, let me go back. I'm getting ahead of myself. Got a crowd here tonight, I'm going to embarrass myself. I need the invocation of the Pledge of Allegiance, please, before we get started. Ms. Kendra Hayden was going to pray, and Michael Carter do the pledge, please.
Dear Heavenly Father, today is a day of remembrance for those who were suddenly and tragically taken away from this world on this day 17 years ago, for the survivors and first responders who courageously and bravely faced the destruction and aftermath from that day's events. I pray that we never forget not only the lives lost and the families affected of the tragedy of 9/11, but also that we remember that tomorrow was never promised. I pray that we would all be grateful for each day we are given and each opportunity we are blessed with as citizens and leaders to work together for the common good for all. I pray we have hope and faith not in ourselves and our own ways, but in you, God, and your ways. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Everyone place your hand on your chest, repeat after me. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Motions for closed session.
Welcome, everybody. We got a room full, so it's good to see all the faces out. I need a motion to adopt the agenda and the additional agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Motion for the minutes of the previous meeting from August 14th and August the 23rd.
So moved. Second.
Any more discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I apologize for not getting with Kelly ahead of time. I found I think it's just a typo type error, and I'd like to, so if you don't mind, I'd like to be able to us make that change. It's just one or two words, with the minutes. I've got it marked here, but I forget where I marked it. So could we amend that for the correct the typos?
You want to read them, or you want to
I'll get, okay,
go ahead now?
Yeah.
Make a motion to amend the minutes
for the typos. It doesn't change the substance, it's just,
Okay, for the typos, Charlie.
and I apologize for not getting there earlier.
Second that.
Yeah, second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Financial Carter, status, Mr. Carter?
Chairman, members of the board, you should have a packet laying in front of you. As you've seen in the past, we are looking into September now, so everything is accounted for in your AP listing. The only thing not applied for in this is the payroll, which will come out later this month. If you look at page 1, that's a revenue summary. The revenues collected to date. Page 1 identifies Fund 1, which is the fund that we monitor very closely. If you look down that column, it identifies the various revenues received up until this point. The first column is the budgeted amount of $24,094,680. If you go over 3 columns, you'll see a year-to-date amount. For those same lines, to date, you've received $2,312,839.12. That leaves you with $21,781,840.88, which is about 90% of collecting through those basically almost 3 months. Pages 3 through 6 are the same listings for the other funds that are taken care of here in the county. Without going into each one of those individual, if you look at page 6, under the budgeted amount column, you'll see a budgeted amount of $87,634.88. I will point out that the column beside it is the amended column, which is now your new budget, is $87,871.63. Your current amount of revenues received, $5,176,41.49, and your year-to-date is $11,378,931.55. So that's about 12% of your projected revenues within those 3 months. Leaves you with a balance of $76,491,231 overall to collect, or about 87%. Your next report is the opposite. It's the expenditure report. And if you look at that one, also on page 1, that is a Fund 1 total. Again, that's the one that gets the most attention. You'll look at the bottom of that. You have in both the budget and the appropriates $24,408,637. Your current amount in expenditures is $2,482,036.12. Your year-to-date, $4,433,651.17. That leaves you with $19,974,985.83, or 81% of your expenditures within Fund 1 left to consider. Again, pages 2, 3, and 4 are the expenditure sides of each of those allotted fund numbers. Again, if you go to the bottom of page 4, the expenditure report, you see the $87,871,163. The year-to-date amount is $11,199,163.99. Your unencumbered amount, $76,679,99.01, which leaves you about 87% of your expenditures. At this point, your revenues total over your expenditures is about $179,767.56. If you turn the page from that one, you'll see basically a breakdown. We do this each month to identify to you with the various departments. You can run down through there. As you can see in the first column, what the expenditures are for current 18. Second column is what was spent in 17, same month. Third column is the difference. As you look down those numbers, there's a couple that stand out. We'll go all the way down to refuse collection and disposal. You'll notice in September of this year, we have a number of 385.81.22. Last year, we had 109.659.43. and that was with the purchase of the transport trailers that we have moved forward with in hauling the county solid waste. The rest of those are fairly on track. You'll see at the very bottom in a very light number, the total for September 18 for all those departments, $1,591,554.89. In 17, it was $1,468,534.03. So we're $123,020.86 more in 18. Your next page is a column sheet that reflects back from 2011-12 all the way to current 18-19, and it basically gives you an identifier of your revenues versus expenditures over that time frame. So as our fund balance continues to increase, that difference number decreases. So don't necessarily be alarmed that the change in this year and last year's number is a lower number. What that identifies is your fund balance grew as well. Your next page should be something titled County Expenses and Appropriations, and these are the reports that you receive directly from the Treasurer's Office. As you know, I always like to take, you have an August 31st of 2018 report, and a couple pages back, you have an August 31st of 2017 report. So I always like to try to make that comparison for that snapshot for that month of each year. So quickly, we'll start at the top. It identifies at the top on the left column bank balance and CD investment amounts. What I'll do is I'll hit the bold first. The combined bank balance and CD investment amounts totals $5,773,27.50. If you compare that to the same number in 17 of $5,665,946.54, that is an increase in 18 of $104,380.96. The next one is the deposits identified in August of 28. You'll see we received $4,342,729.08 in deposits. In 17, we received $4,382,317.91. So we were actually $39,588.83 less in deposits in 18. For expenses in 18, $3,382,744.88. And expenses in 17 was $3,472,797.10. So we were $90,052.22 less in our expenditures in those same comparisons. We get down to the subtotal. In 18, we have a $6,733,1170. In 17, we have a $6,575,467.35. So we're $154,844.35 ahead in those subtotals made up of those above. Get into the July to June unspent. In August of 18, $300,212.94. If you look to your right, those numbers are identified in bold under the social services, school, and general county unspent appropriations. If you look at your 17, we had $290,641.15, so we were $9,571.79 higher in our unspent, which gets to our balance, which is the number that we're looking for today. Our balance is $6,430,098.76. Our balance in 17 was $6,284,826.20. So we're $145,272.56 ahead. A couple others I'll identify quickly is the what we call the Sheriff's Radar Fund in 18, $958,614.58. In 17, it was $1,119,739.06. So we're $161,124.48 less, and then you have your CDs listed at the bottom. When you look at your appropriations listing on your very, very colorful purplish tinted additional agenda, you'll see some various numbers, but what I would like to identify that these numbers are through the end of August. So each Monday prior to each board meeting, we have a financial meeting That includes our treasurer's office, our school board office, and our Department of Social Services. And we have an update meeting that identifies anything that's came in beyond that end-of-month calculation you just looked at. With the meeting yesterday, I can tell you the available balance for the county as of yesterday was $7,317,000, $327.38. So when you get to the point of your additional agenda and you talk about appropriations, you have enough available within your operating budget to cover those expenditures. There's no need for a second meeting to do that. And the last item that you have attached to your packet is what's called the Treasurer's Accountability Report. Again, this comes from the Treasurer's Office. They provide this each month, and it is basically an accounting of all the transactions, balances, and such that they track each month. So I would encourage you all to look at that. If ever there's any questions or comments about that, feel free to get a hold of me. But bottom line is, today you're fully, if considered and appropriated, you have the means necessary to do your appropriations today.
Thank you very much. Any questions? We're a little bit late, but I'll open citizens' time. See if anybody signed up. Ruth Bishop.
Good evening, Board.
If you would, everybody state your name and address for the record.
I am sorry. I am Ruth Bishop, and I live at 140 West Strother Street in Marion, Smyth County, and I live in the West Park District. Now, I am here tonight to talk to you all about what I feel is unfair, that we do not have representation for the Library Board of Trustees in our district. And I would like to see someone appointed to represent the Board of Trustees for our Park District. And hopefully we will be able to get that done, and I appreciate it. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Barbara Armbruster.
I'm Barbara Armbruster. I live 531 Keller Lane in Marion, Virginia. Good evening, members. I also am here. I want to talk about concerning the fact that the Library Board of Trustees is not fully represented also by the Park District. And I have children and grandchildren that live in this area, and they frequent the library, and I would love to see someone appointed to take care of the Park District as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Robert Owens.
My name is Robert Owens. I live at 191 Rolling Creek Lane, Marion. Basically, we're here to find out where we stand on this Rouse Outlaw Mountain thing as far as the county attorney. Understanding was that it was to be turned over to him to do whatever he does on that. It basically hadn't changed anything as far as they're doing it, other than just not quite as much, as not quite as many people as using it as was, but it's still there and it's still going ongoing thing. She has posted that it is closed, but there's nothing closed about it. She has posted that it's her friends and she'll do what she wants to do. And I'd like to hear from the county attorney and see where he stands on it as far as where we're at.
And usually citizens' time is just that, where you listen to the citizens, but
Right.
I know this was an issue, hot and heavy, and I had asked Mr. Campbell if he would address that situation, because I know it was a lot in the room
Right.
over that. So if you would, Mr.
I'll
Campbell.
be happy to. Mr. Owens, I actually tried to reach you, I think, earlier today. but it wasn't successful in doing
Well,
so.
now, my cell phone doesn't work out where I live.
I understand. If you'll recall, the notice that was mailed by the zoning administrator to them, instructing them to cease operations, had a triggering date of tomorrow, actually.
Okay.
And, obviously, I'm the county attorney. That issue was turned over to me by the zoning administrator.
Right.
However, it will take action by this board authorizing me to institute any litigation. I'm going to recommend here tonight that, in fact, they pursue that litigation because, state of operations, a term of art.
Right.
And I know a lot of you are probably seeing that. I think it's important for enforcement purposes for the county to be able to get a court order providing for the cessation of that, and I'm going to urge them to do the same. That's where we're
I
at.
appreciate your time. Thanks, sir.
Susie Peak?
Hi, my name is Susie Peak. I live at 633 Middle Fork Road, Marion, Virginia. Good afternoon to you all. This is to follow up from our prior meeting that was a month ago about the Rouse Outlaw Mountain. I do want to thank the county for the help with it. It has temporarily, not completely ceased, but it has gotten better. But my only issue is that it has escalated to the main road in our community, which is Middle Fork Road. We continuously have, these are not road bikes, these are mountain bikes and trail bikes that are continuously racing up and down our road. I have witnessed them stopping in front of my house and taking pictures. It's almost like they're targeting our homes to release this information. Hey, this is the homes that we need to target. And we have had some Facebook issues where they have posted issues on Facebook. And this is one of the comments that was made by one of the Rouses. It says, I say do donuts on their lawns. And if they're saying that our four-wheelers are loud, then what about our mountain bikes going up and down the road? So this is kind of where they're admitting that they are going to continue with the aggravation to us, to our people in our community then. So the only thing that I ask is that our county officers maybe patrol that area from time to time to maybe actually kind of witness and catch them before someone does get hurt. Because one of our neighbors did tell me when she was leaving out coming to work one afternoon this week that he was coming up the road so fast that when she had stopped to pull out of her driveway that he almost actually flipped it over. And where he was just actually, there's a hill that's coming up in front of my house, and they start escalating it, accelerating, in order to go by my home, then to make, the continuous loud noise, and that's when he almost lost control. So I'm afraid that's going to happen too then, regardless of the noise that's going on too then. But, like I said, I do appreciate the county's help in whether it be a permanent cessation to this or whether it's temporary. It has helped, but it just has escalated into the main road, which you put a lot of people that are driving on that road, putting them at risk for an accident to happen, and not alone the people that are on the mountain bikes and the trail bikes, putting them at risk of getting hurt in our community too. And so, but we do appreciate the county's help with it, and we are asking to see if maybe the county officers could patrol that area, regularly, and then maybe try to, maybe put a stop to that. I know there's nothing you can do about the Facebook, their followers on Facebook, where they're actually trying to encourage the noise and then maybe even harm to our homes and our property by this, as far as doing donuts in our own yard. So, and another comment was, give them something really to whine and cry about, referring to us in the community, our neighbors. And so, But we do appreciate your help with this, so thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Tom Hatcher?
My name's Tom Hatcher. I live at 121 Highland Circle, Marion. And my reason for being here tonight is concerning the American flag, whatever flying at the courthouse. You know, today was a special day. Flags all over town. At every agency were up at half staff. There was no flag at the courthouse. There was no flag at the courthouse yesterday. There was no flag at the courthouse on Friday. I think, you know, I've been watching it for quite some time, and if a flag flies 2 days out of the week, we're lucky. And I think it's an embarrassment that happens, and I'd like to see the Board of Supervisors do something about that and see that the flag is flying appropriately every day. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Marvin Leslie?
Good evening, lady and gentlemen of the Board of Supervisors and Administration and Council. I'm here as address, 184 Keller, Marion, Atkins District. I'm here as a citizen of our fine county. I'm also here to offer you something that will help you. It's not going to cost you any money. And I would like to ask you a question on top of that, too. I'm concerned about our Library Board of Trustees having only 4 members representing 4 magisterial districts. And as you've heard from other speakers, a lot of us feel that each district should be duly represented by a member on that body. Traditionally, I think it's been a 7-member group. And when I say it will help you, I think that there are probably a lot of folks who would be able to offer good governance by serving on that body. And not that I think you haven't done a good job already, but it's sort of like we're hitting on 4 cylinders when we could be hitting on 7. And I would like to encourage you to consider that very seriously, to expand that and have your supervisors in those districts not represented offer names. And I'm in the Atkins district, and we have representation. We had 2 actually up until recently, and I encourage you to think about that. If any of you can offer a reason why we only have 4, we would be, glad to hear what that is. Traditionally, 7 members, now 4. Please give that some serious consideration, and it won't cost you anything, and it'll, I think, give you a synergistic impact on the governance of our fine library. So thank you very much, and please think about it.
Thank you, sir. Jennifer and Tyler Sam?
I would like to apologize. I thought that it was a financial.
That's fine. Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Mr. Blake Frazier?
My name is Blake Frazier, 1272 Laurel Springs Road, Marion, Virginia. And I believe it's fitting that we're gathered here on September the 11th, 17 years ago. Events were planned, as we all know, to destroy and divide us as a nation. Fortunately, the opposite happened. We became united more than ever. That I can remember. And the morning after, I remember that too, instead of white flags of surrender, just about every building had an American flag flying high and proud.
As I stand here tonight, I can still kind of remember that feeling of unity and togetherness. But unfortunately, years later, we've kind of lost those feelings. Myself have, and it saddens me. But I do remain hopeful and thankful for where I live. Now, that being said, in May of last year, I, as a member of this board, made some remarks that did not come out the way that I had intended. They sounded better in my head than they did in my ears. Let me also say that I personally and publicly apologize to the individuals that were the targets of my rant. Matt Buchanan was here last month and brought all that back to light and spoke about my cousin, Rob Farmer. Now, I've run into Mac several times since 2017, and we've not had any mention of any trouble. Everything has been pretty cordial. But Mr. Buchanan has also had several months to come to our library and to visit with Rob to either welcome him back to the community or ask him personally about some of the things that he spoke about to this board last month. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened. Mr. Buchanan mentioned my long-lost cousin, Ross Farmer. Ross would be long and lost. That's not his name. I have no idea who Ross Farmer is. He didn't even know his name. But I would also believe to do a credible background check on someone, the most important element would be their name, the correct name. And if you wanted to find out if someone has had an affair or something like that, you would not need their Social Security number, just their correct name for Facebook or Twitter. In the time since Rob Farmer and the new library board has taken over the responsibility of our county libraries, there have been 2 budget cuts. Now, I remember in years past that if that would have happened then, it would have been very divisive. We would have been threatened with cutting employees, cutting hours, and closing locations. Instead, under new leadership, the hours have been extended, new state-of-the-art library software has been purchased and implemented. Rob is working each of the 3 libraries weekly, new computers in each facility, more staffing in Chilhowee and Saltville, including full-time managers, equipment for the local history room, 3 new signs, and a lot of other improvements. Plus, wonderful support from the different friend groups of each library. Now, Mr. Buchanan also said that I recommended Rob for this job. That is so far from the truth. I did not mention this position to Rob at the time, but strongly cautioned him to consider all that was happening around the library and who he was kin to when he was applying. I'm also glad that Rob didn't listen to his cousin. Smyth County is better off with Rob Farmer's passion, work ethic, education, and presence. And I'll wrap up quickly, though. In one breath, Mr. Buchanan tells the board his same story. There's nothing here for anybody. There are no jobs, no future, no reason for anyone to come here. But in the very next breath, he condemns someone for coming back to his hometown, moving from Alaska on his own dime to create a better library for the community that Rob and his family, just like the Buchanans, have been a part of for a long, long time. In my opinion, it's the same old bad breath that Mr. Buchanan has spewed since I was on the board, and it makes me want to rephrase my 2017 question or comment to a question. Why would anyone want to stay here if it's that bad? Unfortunately, when Mr. Buchanan spews all of this negativity in these statements, he gut punches every single school board employee that he represents, every teacher, every administrator, every employee that have gone off for their education and have chosen to locate back here or to accept a job here and improve the lives of our children and ultimately our community. I can think of many businesses that employ hundreds of people who have gone away for their education, moved back, and taken a position here. Mr. Buchanan's own daughter, a wonderful physician, has moved back here to care for her community. As a matter of fact, she's Rob and his wife's doctor. I would think that type of negative rhetoric would be a slam to her and the nurses and the office personnel who practice employees. Now, since May of 2017, I think a lot of good things have happened. This board has passed 2 budgets with no tax increase for our county. The Adwolf Sewer Project has been completed, and the governor of Virginia was just here just several weeks ago to welcome the new people that are in the old Merillat building, Speyside Bourbon, which will be bringing at least 125 new good-paying jobs for our community. I love where I live, and I loved my 4 years on this board. I regret horribly my words from the end of one meeting. I felt I gave my credibility away, and for that I am sorry, still to this day. I believe Mr. Buchanan and I, and Rob, all have more in common than we don't. We're all passionate about what we believe, dedicated, hardworking, sometimes a little loud. I've been called obnoxious at times, but at the end of the day, we all three go home to wives that are the salt of the earth. We can't be that bad. I believe as an elected school board official, though, Mr. Buchanan should hold himself to a higher standard, just as I should have, and represent our school system in a more professional manner. I have left this behind and I have moved on. However, Rob hasn't done a thing other than be the choice of the library board's top 3 candidates, move here, and do exactly what he was hired to do. He didn't deserve the disparaging comments and disrespect. And I believe an apology is due Mr. Farmer from Hurricane Mac. To many on this board, I say thank you for the positive work that you're doing to move us forward. It's a tough job, but it's an important one. Thank you all.
Joe Terry.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joe Terry. I live at 1903 Tattle Branch Road in Chilhowie. It's over on the Riverside section. I'm not sure if y'all are too familiar with that. But I'd talk to you today about placing SROs in all of our community schools. I know as of right now, several of our SROs have to travel from, say, Sugar Grove all the way to Atkins. To me, that's just not very safe. It's kind of ironic that I get to bring this up on 9/11, a day that will live in infamy for us. We all, at our age, remember a time back when we went to school, a time back when the pocket knives were accepted and chewing gum was not. That's not the way it is now. We all realize that. So what steps can we take to keep our most precious commodity in this community, our people, our children and our grandchildren safe? Just as close by as Blacksburg, things have happened in the school system. We all know what Columbine is. We don't want to be remembered as that, and I urge you guys and our community to rectify the situation to make our children and our treasure of this community as safe as it can be. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Kim Estep.
Kim Estep, 1305 Laurel Springs Road, Marion. I come to address the same issue as Mr. Joe Terry. Last month, Jerry Sheets was here in reference to a SRO and everyone. I have 3 in the Smyth County Public Schools. I can't say thank you enough for putting one in the schools where they go. When we drop them off in the morning, the comfort that I have to pull off, to know that somebody's there to watch them, protect them, they're not big enough to do it. I saw as we come in tonight, there's an officer here at the building now. Is that right? And I think 3 schools are missing. I don't know what has to be done to add the 3. Just kind of curious of, can we as a community do something? Does it have to be you guys to do something? Where are we to the next step? And it's not my kids that are lacking. All the schools that they go to, they have one. My nieces and nephews, not so much. Other families in the community, no. So is there anything that we can do to help to get to the next level, to put one? Is there grants? Has anybody applied for a grant? I've looked online for, I know Jerry was here, done a lot of research. There seems to be lots of grant money in reference to a school resource officer. Is there a grant writer for the county? Is there anything that we can do? Can you take volunteers to do a committee? Is there anything? I guess I'm asking, does anybody know?
There's a grant being written, already written.
So that's only for 2. You would still lack 1. Am I right to say that? Is there funds to fund that other one?
It's the sheriff's department's hire.
Right.
SROs.
So would it be them to do the other three, or the Board of Supervisors to do the other three?
They get their funding from the Board of Supervisors, but it's their choice of where they use their money, whether it be an SRO in each school or, this discussion's been had a lot with the sheriff's department and amongst the board members and the community as well. So it's something we've been trying to work toward. Just the same as the library situation tonight. That's another project that we're working towards. So, excuse me.
Should be noted, we proposed a situation that would have funded.
Go ahead if you want to.
The budget committee actually put a proposal forward that funded more boots on the ground, so to speak. But the sheriff saw fit that to put less people and increase wages, which that's a tough battle. But our proposal was a higher number of people, but he rejected that and chose to give wage increases over the number of people.
And that was through this.
Yes, ma'am.
I think that it's unfortunate that the sheriff isn't here to respond to that. I feel like he's very conscientious to want the safety of our children in their schools, as many of us are. We have a large budget, and as I've said in the past, I don't know why we can't find money if we have to for that. I have grandchildren there. We have security in this building. And, you know, I've been told, well, one person can cover 2 schools, and it only takes a matter of minutes. Well, when there's a tragedy, it's seconds that matter, not minutes. So if that's the same thing here. The sheriff's department is right down the hill from this building, but yet we feel like we've got to have security here. So I'm in total support of that. And I feel like the sheriff should have an opportunity to respond as far as the way he budgets his money.
We have to be very thankful for the ones that we do have, and that we're only 3 schools down. And I guess my point being is we're so close. You've got Washington County below us, you got West County above us. They're all 100%. And I guess I'm asking for what can anybody do to make the next step? I mean, do you have to put it in that you guys just discuss it, the sheriff's office? What's the next step to getting? I mean, I don't think you can wait till next year to add another one. I mean, it is 9/11. Bad things happen. Bad things did happen to America. I've heard a comment that several have said that we're Smyth County. We are Smyth County, but that can happen here too. They can't defend themselves. I don't know where we go. Do you guys? What's the next step?
And I hate to continue with the dialogue in citizens' time, because that's just not that's not how, that's for us to listen. But it is a budgeted item, and we do the budget in July of the year. So our budget's already been passed for the upcoming year. So, but I guess if there's a community effort, or I don't know. I just can't give you an honest answer of what needs to be done tonight to make that happen.
And I respect you being honest. I just, as a community, our kids, just want to know what can happen. Thanks.
Thank you. That's all that signed up to speak. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? All right.
Charles Buchanan, 5732 Valley Road, Saltville, Virginia. Last time I was here, I probably ruffled a few feathers and I lost my temper, which that's not uncommon for me. I didn't hear what Mr. Fraser had to say about me. I'd probably be PO'd before we ever got started. I didn't hear what all he said. But anyway, I heard some reference to the school board, and I want to make it quite clear, I have no politics. I'm a conservative independent. I have no ties to any political party. The fact that I serve on a local school board has nothing to do with me being here. I'm coming on my own behalf and for some citizens that are concerned about what's going on in this county, And my position on the school board has nothing to do with me being here. And I told them last night at our meeting, I said, when my ability to speak my mind as a citizen and taxpayer of this county is hobbled by my being on the school board, I will resign. And nobody seemed to step up to the plate and say, hey, I think that's what you need to do. So anyway, when I got home last week, or whenever we had this last meeting, and I didn't watch the film, I didn't want to, but a lot of people started calling as soon as I got home that night, and they said, I'm glad you stood up for what we've been thinking and were afraid to say. And I had a lot of influential citizens of this county called, emailed, and texted and said, hey, what you said needed saying, we need to hear more of that. And these are not just rednecks. These are people pretty far up the food chain in this county that are concerned and need to know what's going on within our county government and all this secrecy that's been going for a long time. My son said, Dad, I don't know why you go over there and get yourself all upset and you're going to have a stroke or a heart attack. They're not listening to anything you say. Nobody cares. And I said, well, Josh, from the response I got from some people that heard what I had to say last week, obviously some people care, and there's a pretty good crowd here tonight. I don't know if they're here for that reason, but Channel 5 was interested enough they were going to come tonight, but they couldn't get a news crew together. They were interested in Smyth County politics and what's going on, and seems like a pretty good story they'd like to cover, so they'll be here at some point. So I guess most of my comments last time were about the library, and I'm a friend of the library, and I'm sympathetic toward their plight, and gotten involved and done a little research and those type things. And I brought up the fact that I thought that was pornographic material was in the library. Nobody seemed to be too upset about it, and some didn't even want to see it. I don't know if it's still there or not. I see you still got your same director that you had 2 weeks ago. And one comment that he made in the paper when he was interviewed concerning what I would deem as pornographic material, and I meant to bring the paper and read the quote. I'm sure you all read it, but his reasoning behind that was so absurd for a library director that it was not even funny, and to have kids coming in and seeing that kind of garbage. So I have no I couldn't believe his response. People I've talked to have a lot of questions for this board and how this county is being run, and they're not very happy with things. We seem to be always short on money. You're pretty quick to apply the budget acts to everything that's going on in the county. It's my understanding that the library was cut $40,000 on this last budget. After the budget was finalized, and some select county employees got a nice little $1,000 bonus for no reason whatsoever. What's that all about? And I understand a lot of county employees were upset because they didn't get one. I mean, how does that go with morale when some people get a $1,000 bonus for no particular reason and others don't? I mean, that's not fair. And I will make one comment about from being on the school board. The school teachers in this county are going to get a little paltry $300 Christmas bonus. $300. It won't even buy their Christmas dinner probably. So that's a daggone shame. And some of the salaries in this little inner circle are unbelievable. And I know that Mr. Simpson supposedly is one of the highest paid assistant county administrators in the Commonwealth. You've got a secretary that's making $40,000+, and a teacher with a master's degree would have to work 14 years to get to that salary level. Does that make any sense? So we just got so many questions we want answered. And I know last time I was saying, well, we'll get in a little side room and we'll talk about it. No, I think we need to talk about it here where the citizens can hear. They need to know what's going on. They elected you guys to come here, and they expect no less from you than to have open government to where they can find out what's going on. That's all we ask. And I'm going to close with one statement. This is just me looking into the future. I think there's nothing we can do this year to turn our county around, but next November, I think we're going to see a whole new board. And we're going to see a board that could be a 5-2, a 6-1, And there's going to be, as Mr. Crump said, there's going to be a draining of the swamp from top to bottom.
That's all that's signed up. Is anyone else wishing to speak? Closed citizens time.
I'd like to thank you all for that effort.
Okay. You're welcome.
Everything's working out slowly but surely.
Okay, very good, very good. Ms. Sarah Beamer, Mount Rogers Community Service Board. I apologize for the delay. Thank you.
Thank you, Board of Supervisors, for allowing me to come before you this evening. As noted on the agenda, I'm Sarah Beamer. I'm the Director of Finance and Administrative Services at Mount Rogers Community Services Board. I have with me, I don't think she's going to speak, but our Executive Director, Sandy Bryant. We're coming before you this evening to talk with you about our process around obtaining a line of credit. What I've distributed to you tonight is a resolution template, and you may already have in your packet your formal resolution. I don't know, but the white paper is a resolution template. The green sheets are an excerpt from our performance contract with the Department of Behavioral Health that I'll speak to, and then the yellow sheet is our condensed budget summary for our fiscal year, fiscal 19. So you'll see from the yellow sheet that our budget on an annual basis is around $61 million. Now, of that, about $5 million represents regional monies and special project monies. Mount Rogers actually serves as the fiscal agent for HPR, Health Planning Region 3, so we also pass through some funding that supports some of the other community services boards in our region. So the point is that it inflates our budget a bit. What I want to speak to you specifically about are the green sheets. And this is an excerpt from our performance contract with the Department of Behavioral Health. As you probably know, the department funds us partially for the services that we provide, and we have a contract with them on an annual basis. For the first time ever in our performance contract for fiscal 19, they have added a compliance requirement regarding cash reserves or reserve funds. So on the green pages, you'll see page 68. This is from Exhibit J from our performance contract, section Roman numeral 1, compliance with state requirements. Then flipping on through to page 70, section E, financial management. And then on page 71, item number 12, which reads, if it is an operating community services board or behavioral health authority, the CSB shall maintain an operating reserve of funds sufficient to cover at least 2 months of personnel and operating expenses. So based on our budget on the yellow sheet, you could calculate that 2 months of reserves for us would be around $10.2 million. Our cash as of the end of July actually was around $10.3 million, but of that, some pertain to the regional monies that I spoke of, some related to financing for some projects actually that we're constructing here in Smyth County, leaving us about $8.6 million in reserves or operating cash. So while we're pretty close to that threshold, we're not quite there. Mount Rogers has never had a line of credit, but as number one, a smart business practice, but number two, as this requirement is really forcing us to do, we are looking to open a line of credit that we hope we don't have to use, but that we have on hand. State code requires that any kind of debt or debt-related product that a community services board needs must be approved by all the localities that we serve, one of which, of course, is Smyth County. So that's why we're here. What I do want to point out, because if I were in your seat, I'd be asking this, is in the resolution, the white page, the last whereas states, Mount Rogers Community Services Board and the county understand and agree that no payments will be requested by Mount Rogers from the county in connection with any repayments of borrowings on the line of credit financing, and that the line of credit financing will not constitute a debt or pledge of the full faith and credit of the county and will not impose any liability on the county, nor is the requested authorization a guarantee of the line of credit financing on the part of the county. So basically, this is a bit of a formality as required by Virginia State Code that we come before all 6 of the localities that we serve requesting your approval for us to move forward in obtaining a line of credit. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions that you might have to further clarify.
Do they have questions?
I just wondering, because of the size of your total operations, the budget being 61 million, I believe, is there any provision in the, and I'm not familiar with the green sheets at all, is there any provision based on the size of the organization? In other words, 10% of 69 million is a lot more than an organization had a $1 or $2 million budget. And cash flow would be a lot different, I would think.
Right, and of course, this requirement is actually not even based on a percentage, but a number of months of operations, and so that's where the size is taken into account. So our $60 million budget is roughly 5-some million a month. So for us to have 2 months in reserve, that would be the 10.2. A smaller board, on the other hand, take a board that might have 20 million, pick a number, 20 million in operations. Their reserve requirement would then be around 4 million. So that's where the size is factored in. If that was that.
Is there any provision for you to petition? Excuse me. That's fine. Any provision for you to maybe petition the oversight board to based on past performance, allow you to cut that number a little bit? Or?
Well, the requirement is set forth by the state in that two months of reserve. And I might follow on to that, too, just because there may be confusion. Our resolution that we're bringing to you, which is a similar resolution as our board approved, would allow us to obtain a line of credit financing of up to $10 million. Now, we're more likely going to get a line of credit of 5 or 6 million, close to about a month of operations. But as we continue to grow, we didn't want to have to come back before all the localities again, so we gave ourselves a little breathing room. But again, back to the size, it is kind of built in with that 1 to 2 month, or that 2 month reserve to account for the different sizes, if that makes sense. I hope that helps.
Yes. In relation to your peer group of like-sized community service boards, how many have an operational line of credit?
I can't give you a specific number, but in the finance director circles that I run, we are one of the few that does not. And again, it's really a smart business practice to have. I've been at the agency now just over 5 years and was a little surprised, based on the size of our budget, that we didn't, just again as a just in case. I've had the privilege of working in other industries and having lines of credit, but never having to borrow, and that would be my goal here as well.
Any more questions?
Attorney, may I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Beamer, Ms. Bryant, and I, and the participating county administrators from the service area, we all had a meeting, and very good meeting, I thought. A lot of good questions were asked. And I haven't got through all the whereases because there's several. But is there anything to identify to the board that identifies being the fiscal agent for some of the other funds that flow through?
Yes, let's see. I address, looking at the resolution itself, if you'll look at the fifth whereas, We talk about our personnel and operating expenses are budgeted at approximately 61 million, including regional special project, so 56 million excluding those. Does that?
Yeah, and that, what the point is what may be reflected on your book is actually a total, as opposed to it just being don't make the assumption that that's the money they have available within their reach. That is a service that they provide for other participating agencies, that they provide that fiscal agent person.
As far as the cash on hand, absolutely.
What's our next step then? We would...
And I don't want to speak for any of those, but I think what they're looking for the board, and I do not know your time frame, but I know you're here tonight with consideration for the board to look at this resolution, possibly consider it. If not, is there a time frame? Can they meet in October and make that recommendation?
They could. Our timeline is, we understand, so this, the green sheets are from our performance contract for our fiscal 19, which of course we're up on the same fiscal year as you, July 1st. Our understanding from the department is they're going to calculate this requirement and hold us accountable at some point in the fall based on our June 30 audited financial statements. So our hope is to go out for bids on this line of credit. In fact, we most likely are going to engage the Virginia FMLA VACO group that I think does some work for the municipalities to help us identify a line of credit source. So just knowing that that'll take some time, we hope to jump on that as quickly as we can. We did actually present to 2 localities last night and gained their approval, Carroll County and Galax. We're slated for Wythe and Bland later this month, and then Grayson in October.
I guess my point is, this is a lot, right up front. The board has a second meeting their next regular meeting on October the 9th. I'm not sure when your Grayson meeting is.
It's around that week, I think. I don't have my calendar with me. Maybe that very week, as a matter of fact.
I'm sorry?
11.
Okay, so and what I'm saying to the board is if it's something that they want to consider, in the interim, we're not against the law because they still have that opportunity to come back on the 9th and consider further. That's just my suggestion.
Which I would like to see done. It's to be handed a resolution and not be able to digest it first. So so if we could, we'll put this on our October meeting agenda, and that'll give us between now and then to digest and take action on the 9th.
Sounds very good. Is that meeting time the same?
It is at 5 p.m.
I'd like to be here maybe in case of questions.
It's at 5 o'clock. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's all of it we've got scheduled. I'm going to take a 10-minute recess if I could. Okay with everybody? All right, we'll start back. Mr. Ray?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the lease that was presented to us, just in form, and allow the continued negotiation and execution of that by yourself on the lease between W.L. Walker Paving Company and Chilhowie Land Company and the county for the lease of the transfer station. Make a motion that we approve that.
Second. Motion and a second on the floor. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor? Opposed?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'd also like to make a motion that we, there's been lots of debate on our economic development position and hiring or lack of hiring. I'd like to make a motion that we re-advertise that position as an administrative position with salary range similar to that of starting teacher, starting sheriff's deputy pay. Mr. Carter has, he's presented us with numerous projects and, as this continues to go and we continue to develop things, the need for someone to put together spreadsheets, you know, a little bit of design work, things to keep things flowing so that we don't miss something is there. And I'd like to make a motion that we do that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
just to some of the things Mr. Gray has cited, I think this is more than putting together spreadsheets. I feel like this position is extremely important to the future of our county. I've heard that from many residents, not only in the Rolette District, but throughout the county. And I feel like we're doing a disservice to this county if we do not staff it with a fully qualified economic development person. So,
I agree with Judy on that. I think we do need somebody do help with the administrative, but I think we need that head person to really be in charge. And I don't think Mike's doing an excellent job, by the way, but I don't think he can be both county administrator and economic development director. He's going to fall down on both of them.
He is and has been.
He is and has been. It's going to get to him after a while.
out of necessity.
I think we need a full-time for each of them.
Well, this would be a full-time position that would go a long ways in not stopping what the momentum. I mean, we have momentum. We have a lot of projects in the works.
And that's wonderful, but I still feel like we're doing a disservice. We're not fulfilling what we're commissioned here to do for this county, to eliminate that position, and that's just what I want to record for.
I respect that, but I've got the motion on the table.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second for the motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll second the motion.
Any more discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would like to say I do think Mr. Carter is doing an excellent job. I can think of no better person to, if I'm a new industry looking to come into Smith County, to be able to talk to the county administrator to get my answers, I think is a tremendous benefit. But I do think that there's a need for some additional support help, and this would be a financial savings. I mean, it's not a negative impact to the budget. So I just want to state that for the record.
And I got a question myself. There is not I guess, it's not an RFP, a job application open now, or is there an open advertisement for the economic development position currently?
No, sir.
And there has been 3 consecutives, what we had looked at?
We have went through the process 3 times in this calendar year.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask one question, because I didn't hear it before. What happened to the candidate that previously was offered and then understood he was still interested? Could you update us on that?
I have not talked to that individual.
Did you try?
I had just heard from, well, actually, Mr. Atkins said that he thought he was still interested.
Right.
So,
I think that's been communicated to, I know to me also.
I go both ways on that. I mean, I sat on the first round of interviews, and I was impressed with the guy, but I live this way personally. I'm nobody's second fiddle. And we went to him one time and gave him exactly what he requested.
He just had some follow-up questions. I don't consider that being
Well,
second fiddle, but-
he had 2 shots, and to give him a 3rd shot, I think we end up with newspaper articles that we don't.
Mr. Ray, it was my understanding he just had a couple of questions he wanted clarified.
there was, and I'm not saying maybe we didn't answer him in the interview session, but he was in contact several times and asked numerous times in even the interviews to, was there any questions for us, and to get back with us.
Of course, I wasn't part of that
but-
interviewing process. I just am going by what I heard from other members of the board and also from administration, that he was a wonderful candidate. So it's just due diligence. I'm just wanting to make myself clear on the record that I feel like maybe we've closed this too soon. And for the members of this community, I feel a responsibility to state that. So
I think what we're trying to accomplish here right now is to get help where it's needed to be to continue this forward momentum that we've got going on in the county. So, with that being said, there's a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? I'd like to get to the appropriations. I don't need to hold you guys up. Are you guys waiting on the planning commission recommendations? Is that what it is?
Yes. Folks are.
Let's do that before we go, Mr. Carter, if we could.
The letter of support for the comprehensive plan.
Okay.
Yeah, we actually have two. I know that we have the planning commission, and we also have the health department that made a presentation back.
Right.
They're here also.
Let's go ahead and take care of that if we could. We'll do appropriations. That's the boring stuff. We'll do that after a while.
Which one would you like to do first?
The comprehensive harm reduction would be good.
Okay. If you will turn to page 36, your board packet, the board remembers the presentation that Dr. Shelton, who was in attendance here tonight, also Mr. Tyler, was here present, gave a very thorough and complete discussion on the plan that they have. I think they identified that night they would allow the board to have time to adequately think about it, receive any comments from the public. They're again here tonight. I think we actually have a team of individuals here tonight. I don't want to discount anyone, but we have a team of individuals here tonight that are in attendance also. They are here to answer any questions that you may have had over the last couple of weeks in regard to it. But ultimately, there's a letter on page 36. Very, it's not very long at all, but it's basically a template letter that identifies the support from the Board of Supervisors for the program, and that's what's for consideration tonight. I think the communication from the board was you would like to have the time to review and think and consider it at your next meeting, and here you are. And I'm not sure if anyone, I guess first of all, if any of the board members have any questions regarding that presentation, then here's our team, and I'm certain they'll be glad to answer anything they can, or you can begin your discussion.
Anyone?
I would like to thank you all for everything you're doing to combat the issue. I was looking through our expenditures through this part of this year, and the line items that directly associate to what you guys are trying to fight, and it's frustrating. So thank you in trying to fix the situation.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I would just like to say, one, I appreciate what you do. This is a very devastating situation for all of Southwest Virginia. I would be remiss if I didn't say, I mean, there's parts of the program that I have a little philosophical difference from or with, but working in the school system and seeing the direct result of a lot of poor choices, we are, in my opinion, in a crisis situation. And in a crisis situation, sometimes we have to take some steps that are moving us in the right direction, even if there are a few little quirks that some people might have problems with. So I applaud you for your efforts, and obviously, I'm sure everyone up here hopes that you are extremely successful.
Anyone else? I'd just like to express, similar to what Rick had said, I said it to you guys before, that if it's, I know it is an epidemic that we face in our county and community, and if there's anything, while I sit in the position of being a board member, to have some kind of positive impact on that, I feel privileged to be able to have some forward momentum in something happening, some action being taken. So that's my feel. With that, is this the letter?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we adopt the letter of support.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor? Thank you, guys.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask one question for you?
Yep.
Before they leave? Would it be appropriate for you all to maybe demonstrate or communicate with the board what happens now? Would that be okay, just so that we keep the dialogue going? If that's okay with the board of supervisors?
I would love to know the stages of succession or success, if there is, to whether it be when there's something noteworthy to come by and tell us. I would love to know that it's making a positive
Brief
impact.
update now, I've received 7 applicants for the director of the opioid grant program and the navigators. We are going to start interviewing those folks next week. We should be fully funded beginning October 1. Federal government funds itself. But at that point, we'll move forward. And then the CSB, there's one position there, and they will be hiring another certified drug and alcohol counselor for that position. So all 4 positions should be filled within the next several months.
As part of the health department, we will, now that you have given your letter of support, we will be submitting our application within the next 1 to 2 weeks. From that time, it will take about a month to go through the approval process, plus or minus some time. We do have to get the approval of the commissioner, the health commissioner, Dr. Oliver, for the state of Virginia to go forward with our program. We'll have a security plan that will be reviewed by Sheriff Schuler during that time frame. And we have a health educator that we're in the process of hiring that we will purpose to be the project manager for this. And once we get the program up and going, after some period of time, we will let you know how things are progressing with the program.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you. Planning Commission recommendations. Apologize, guys. Sometimes meetings go. Tonight, this was our agenda. It was 1 page, and that is a scary night when it's a 1-page agenda. So,
told my kids I'd be home at 6:30.
Yeah. So, Mr. Carter, if you would, please, you're on 34.
Yes, sir. If you return to page 34, you will take, there actually, as you recall, 2 recommendations from the Planning Commission from their joint meeting on the 23rd. The first one involved the Krieger and Taylor request for a map amendment. Commissioner Joe Pugh made a motion to recommend approval of the Krieger and Taylor's request for a map amendment to the official zoning map of Smyth County, Virginia, from agricultural rural to commercial, which is the western portion of tax map number 56F-1-34 and 56F-1-35, and all of tax map number 56F-1-33. Commissioner Davis Finn seconded the motion, and after consideration, the motion passed by the following vote. All in favor was Sparks, Spence, Wagner, Shepherd, Pugh, Davidson Jr., and Dean. There were no nays, abstainers, or absents. So that is your recommendation on the Krieger and Taylor map amendment.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the amendment.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Thank you. Your second one, if you look on page 35, and I apologize, I have to look around the column at you.
That's all right.
But I have a letter that was presented to me. If you don't mind, I'll read that for the record.
Go ahead.
Okay. It says, Dear Smyth County Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors, I would like to take this opportunity to once again apologize for not being able to attend the meeting last week. As a follow-up to the first rezoning meeting, I am writing to clarify any questions. As I stated earlier, for no financing purposes only, I purchased the property in my company's name. That and the fact I have no intention on developing the property into a residential subdivision are the reasons I have requested it to be rezoned agricultural rural. I know there were some questions of equipment being moved in And yes, I have moved some equipment onto the property in an effort to build a road for a future camping location. While constructing the road, I have moved some stone around for use on the property and used some for my personal use. Running equipment is one of my hobbies and allows me to get away from the everyday hustle and bustle. I fully understand that if, in the future, I want to remove stone from my property, I will need to work closely with DMME and zoning. In addition, the property has always been gated and the neighbors have always had access with their own key. Several times while I was looking at the land and several times since I purchased it, I have run into people hunting and riding four-wheelers. This is the purpose for keeping the gates locked. Once again, thank you for considering my request. Sincerely, Tyler Simon. So, with that in mind, your next recommendation from the Planning Commission is at the bottom of page 34. It involves the map amendment for the nursery. Commissioner Tony Dean made a motion to recommend approval of the Simon Nursery's request for a map amendment to the official zoning map of Smyth County, Virginia, from residential to agricultural rural, which is tax map number 33-A-5A. Commissioner Hazel Wagner seconded the motion. After consideration, the motion passed by the following vote. All in favor? Sparks, Wagner, Shepherd, Spence, and Dean. Those opposed, Pugh and Davidson Jr. No abstainers, no absent.
Pleasure of the board.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to accept the map amendment as presented for Simon Nursery.
Second.
Motion and seconds on the table. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor?
Thank you.
Bet. Go back to appropriations now, we'll get that one. General County, accounts payable listing, $1,591,554.89. Payroll, $671,833.82. Auto draft, rural development, $8,974. Solid waste yard truck, $20,000. AEP CenturyLink bills, $25,000. County administration fund, $5,000. Total county appropriations plus the carryover, $2,300,000.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Social services, September the 12th through September the 30th of 2018, $350,000. October 1 through October 9, $60,000. Total social services, $410,000.
So moved.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? School operating fund, instruction, $3 million. Administration, attendance, and health, $120,000. Transportation, $180,000. Facilities, $420,000. School food services, $240,000. Technology, $115,000. For a total school operating fund of $4,075,000.
So moved.
Second.
More discussion? All those in favor? Courthouse project, $255,901.
So moved.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Sheriff fund, $748, $23,791.72.
So moved.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Recovery court fund, $749, $595.08.
So moved. Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? All right. Trough performance agreement for Speyside Bourbon Cooperage. Mr. Campbell?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the agreement begins on page 39, I believe it is, of your packets.
7.
37, okay. My glasses In any event, this is the proposed agreement between the Tobacco Commission and the county with respect to the issuance of $415,000 incentive grant for Space Eye. Terms of the grant are pretty explicit. It requires the company to provide 125 jobs and $26 million, I believe it is, in investment. As with all trough agreements these days, as was stated earlier, there is a clawback provision contained within it that would require the county to pay back this money if, or at least a portion of this money, if the company doesn't meet those threshold requirements. In addition to that, there is a new provision that I think just was instituted by the Tobacco Commission this year, which requires the county to pledge 5% of the taxable revenue created by the project back to the commission up to a 105% amount, I believe. So, in any event, this is the proposed agreement. You'll need a motion to approve the same and to authorize the chairman to execute.
Any questions, comments?
Yeah, excuse me. I'd like a little more clarification on that 105% payback. Is that only if they default? Or if Tobacco Commission gives them the 400?
No, that's not a default provision. That's actually, the county would only enjoy 95% of the taxable revenue from day one, from its operation, until such time as the Tobacco Commission would receive 105% of $415,000, which would be the it basically becomes a total grant payback. It's a loan, effectively, as Mr. Carter said earlier, with a 5% profit margin. It's
Do we need to borrow the money? I mean,
Well, in this instance, it's already been calculated.
already been done, probably.
But moving forward in projects, I think you and I had a conversation.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't mean this wrong, but they're just acting like a financial institution. And if we have the funding available outside those means, well, we need to worry about that.
We need to look at it in the future.
I think project specific, moving forward, absolutely. You know, some of these lesser amounts, I think we need to look real quickly and real hard at those.
Yeah, absolutely. They found them a way to make a profit.
Well, what they've done is and this happens a lot. I mean, it happened with the VC to the Coalfield Economic Development Authority. They find a way to make themselves perpetually self-sustaining, because those organizations and those people that are employed by those organizations want to maintain their jobs through to retirement. So you can better believe, you know, the Tobacco Commission for years acted like, quite frankly, a group of drunken sailors on a Friday night. And it caught up with them, just frankly. So, you know, at this point, they're being responsible. They're being responsible to agree that in some ways you can make an argument it's disincentivizing economic development.
And it's also that percentage of only that company's received revenues. You can't substitute it. So,
You know, I'm not opposed to it if they do it, give them 5% over, but they have to pay it all back plus 5%. There's no need to have them involved with it.
It shouldn't be called a grant. It ought to be called, quite frankly, but it is what it is.
You know, I think we need to publicize it. We're not, you know, future projects, we're not going to be working with them.
But we need to accept this one.
Yep.
So I make a motion, we do.
and to make it feel better on this one, as you recall, this one, the new rule kicked in July. The question that I posed to the Tobacco Commission on this one, it was talked about prior to July. So if this one falls under the grandfather rule, it doesn't apply. But everything moving forward is the ones we need to have consideration about.
I'll second his motion.
There's a motion and a second on the floor to accept the trough performance agreement. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Committee recommendations. Budget Committee, page 52. The first item on will be considered for the board meeting on the 23rd. That was Gabe Johnson's.
That's correct. We've already acted on that.
The solid waste trucks is what we need to take care of.
That's correct.
In the Budget Committee, Mr. Carter brought forward a resolution for not financing the solid waste trucks.
For financing.
Huh?
For financing.
For financing of the solid waste trucks. This will allow the county to move forward with the financing of $206,460 at an interest rate of 3.19 for 60 months. Mr. Ray made a motion, Mr. Levin seconded it, and it was agreed upon unanimously, so that's a committee recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, just for purposes, the agreement is on page 53 of that agreement.
Committee recommendation. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor? Mr. Simpson presented proposals for a copier lease for juvenile and domestic relations court. One from Hungate Business Services at a cost of $104.07 a month. One from Tri-City Business Machines for $66.34 a month. After discussion, motion was made to go with Tri-City Business Machines at a cost of $66.34 a month. That was a committee recommendation also. Is there any more discussion?
I'd like to make just a comment here. In that I would like, and I think we all would like to support local businesses, but when we're comparing apples to apples and there's this much difference in the bids, we got to go with the lowest bid.
It was brought up and talked about then, because we've done that with automobiles, with copiers, with printers, with whatever. And I know sometimes we get accused we need to support our local, and I agree for that, but you got to be competitive.
I want the public to know we think about that.
Absolutely.
Better have a good reason not to take the lowest one, too.
So that's a committee recommendation. Any more discussion? All those in favor? We meet too much. Mr. Carter, you do that one on transfers. Lisa?
For the September 4th meeting?
On page 54.
Yes, I'll do that. The Budget Committee met again on September the 4th, a couple items that we discussed. The first one is there was a request from the Sheriff's Department to transfer $4,520 that they've recognized in vacancy savings through the comp board. They have the ability to transfer that money into other line items. They wanted to take that money from their 21,070,1001 salaries line item and put that into the 21,070,5408 vehicle maintenance line item. Board of Supervisors some time ago granted me the ability to make internal transfers of up to $4,000. This exceeds that amount. I brought it to the committee, and after consideration, there was a recommendation, a second, and all agreed unanimously, so that is a committee recommendation at this point.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
The second one was recap during our budgeting process for this current year. There was identified a need for a replacement of what we call a 911 call handling equipment down in our dispatch service. We received 3 proposals. Those are all on page 55. You can see the breakdown of those. We went through each of those. Initially under the base, a company called Mobile Communications, as you can see, had a low base plus 5-year support number of $154,709.33. After further discussion, this was a stripped down version in order to remain and continue to have the same services that we are currently providing. It was also recommended to include a couple of the ones down below, which include at a cost of $15,660, which is the workstations, the ELO touchscreen monitors, and the medium service bundle. That makes the amount $168,390.48. And if you'll humor me for just a minute and flip over to page 56, that is another portion that goes along with this. And this is a program needed to make all of this stuff run efficiently and effectively. So there's an additional cost of $1978.85. That brings the total cost, as you see, to $173.69.33. The county received a grant from the Virginia Information Technology Agency back earlier this fiscal year for $150,000. When you take a $173.69.33, you compare it to the offsetting grant award of $150. That basically says the county will have $20,369.33 in this improvement. I will notify you that in the adopted budget, we had far greater anticipation of cost. We actually budgeted $270,000 for this expenditure, and we're getting by far less than that. So that was a recommendation also for the board tonight.
It's a committee recommendation. Any more discussion?
Just a clarification, I guess. If we'd gone with CenturyLink, would we've had the workstations, ELO touch, would all that had been calculated too?
It would have been. Everything on the top was base, so we took the base and calculated the less. And if, just for example, in those comparisons with mobile communications, the total 168, CenturyLink was already in at base at 164. Okay. So it was determined that for the $4,000 difference, there was no way that they could compete with those additional options that we figured into it.
Okay, thank you.
And I'd just like to say, this is getting what we've got back. This is, it's basically the replacement of what we had now. This is not like a...
No learning curve.
Right. Well, and it's not a big upgrade. It's just, it's kind of the basic.
But it was also the recommendation of our coordinator.
Right.
To have
Yes, it was.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I know, I mean, there's the bid process, which we followed, but I was shocked at the state bid compared to the two other bids. I mean, you kind of assume that a state bid would be very competitive. In this situation, it was nowhere even close, which I was surprised.
Something wrong with the system there. I don't know what it is.
All right, any more discussion? Any recommendation? All those in favor?
In the last item of that meeting, there was a gentleman here prior, I wrote his name down, Mr. Thacker, maybe, if I wrote that correctly, talking about the flags. There was actually an article in the paper about that as well, and we brought that up in committee. Our process, we do not have one. We do not have the lighting necessary to fly those flags as according to the proper protocol around. We kind of take the same approach as the schools take. We raise those flags in the morning. If there is an inclement day or rain or whatever, they come down. So we talked about that. They do have all-weather flags. The committee talked about it, discussed it. I think in budget committee, you guys certainly correct me where I'm wrong. They felt like that leaving them up around the clock in bad weather and who knows what was more of a disservice to that flag than they felt that the benefit arose from. So when they discussed that, we had costs associated with it. And at least from the committee, they decided to leave our protocol as it is. So that is, and if you guys want to add anything to that, that's how I recollect.
The code says one of two things. It either is done the way we do it, or it's an all-weather flag that has to be properly illuminated. And the cost of an all-weather, that's not an issue.
Yeah, it was minute, actually.
$25. But I think we arrived at the situation that, just my personal opinion is that it's more disrespectful to leave it flying, and especially in inclement weather. And that is, the fact that it's not flying today is actually per the U.S. flag code. I mean, we're not disrespecting anything. So if there's a big enough push, I guess the illumination would be the getting it illuminated would be, because neither flagpole does currently have lighting. But I don't know, I'm more with tried and true traditions, and it's worked for years, and nobody's really complained.
I'd like to add to that, if I may, as a veteran on the board, I think it shows more respect for the flag when we raise and lower it daily. If you raise it up there and leave it up, you forget about it, and you lose its meaning. When we raise and lower it each day, I think that means a lot. I also think in inclement weather like today, the flag should not be raised. And as a veteran, I support that. But maybe what we need to do is convey that to the public, that in bad weather, we're not going, we're going to go with flag etiquette and not present the flag. And that might be what we need to do, is just educate the public why we don't do it.
Well, go ahead.
I certainly respect you as a veteran, Charlie, and all those who are. I guess my concern is tonight when we heard the public, their perception of us not being good stewards, I guess, or patriotic. I know a lot of places, and like you said, I feel like it dishonors it more by leaving it up all the time. But I guess maybe the PR is the thing, right? It's to make people understand that it's out of a feeling of respect to take it up and down daily. But the thing that this gentleman shared today is it's not always consistent. So it takes staffing to be responsible.
I think it is. I think.
Well, he said it wasn't always, the flag wasn't always.
Well, yesterday it rained. Last Friday it was a gloomy, cloudy, rainy-looking day. I can understand why both days it wasn't up. Excuse me.
And if I may,
Yeah.
Our flags at all of our facilities, they're raised at dawn, they're taken down at the end of the day, unless some type of inclement weather occurs. Now, and I don't know the situation, but if someone rides by the courthouse or this facility or the health department or where they ride by, and they ride by after the working hours, those flags are down. And during the summer months, you've got 3 hours or better of daylight that still exists that no flag would fly. So, and also you've got to think about the weekends. We don't have individuals that come in to raise those flags on the weekend. So if someone is coming by on the weekend, they're not going to see a flag raised. So I'm not trying to counter or debate.
I was just concerned over some of the public comment tonight, but I understand.
I think PR is what we need now, just to, hopefully the newspaper will print it, we're.
Well, hey, he fought for our right to have an opinion on this situation. I value his belief, his thoughts about it. And I'm not saying that Mr. Thatcher, I don't know his background, I don't know, but I'm good with that.
I'm good with the way we're doing it now, too.
Matt, Stephanie, is that something that we can try to identify for the, thank you.
And I'm going to say this, too. There's going to be days something happens and they're going to forget it. But they're going to be rare, and somebody's probably going to point it out, hey, the flag's not up. But that will happen.
Some of the worst, I don't even want to call them conversations. I would call them one-sided conversations that I have been involved with have revolved around that flag. And there are very serious individuals out there, and rightfully so. But there have been different occasions where I've had to address people raising and lowering those flags because they didn't do it right. And unfortunately, it may have touched the ground or it may have not been folded correctly. And let me tell you, they're very passionate, and I am right with them. I understand that completely.
Well, it's just the committee's thoughts and comments that we just felt like it gave more respect, as you stated earlier, that we tend to the flag daily and shelter it when it's inclement weather. And we just thought an all-weather flag illuminated, this doesn't have the meaning, I don't think.
It's going to be torn and tattered in 365 days.
So that wasn't a committee recommendation, but I'm glad to hear your all's thoughts on it. So. That on budget?
That's it.
You've got, losing my place. In my mind. Solid Waste Committee, Mr. Ray, 58.
Solid Waste Committee met on September 4th. First topic that we discussed was the lease concerning the transfer station, and we've already acted on that tonight, so that is taken care of. The other topic that we discussed, another topic that we discussed was contract for disposal services. City of Bristol had who won the competitive bidding process, and Mr. Campbell noted a couple of changes that need to be made, and if I'm correct in looking at what's presented in our packet tonight, those changes have been made.
Actually, I think this is the original agreement. I have sent that proposed change over to the City of Bristol, but I haven't gotten a response back from them yet. It's a pretty simple change. In section, I guess, 15, there's a pretty onerous record production requirement on the county. It requires the county to provide and keep on file the city manifest listings of all their current sources of waste and the types of waste. And in talking with Mr. Simpson this afternoon even, we think that a better way to couch that would be to require the county to do that upon request by the city. So that proposed change has been sent to them by email, and I just asked the body to consider approving the agreement subject to that change.
Did we find out about our Section 9?
Get this back on.
Yeah, they went from 8 to 10.
Miscellaneous.
Goes from 7.
Oh, yeah, yeah, that's the other issue, is there is no section. I think what happened was there was a misnumbered section is what it looks like, so those will have to be cured also.
And they add one thing, the ability for the manifest, we have a reporting system. If it becomes a huge issue, we have a reporting system that can break it down by material received each month. And I would assume that would suffice, because that's what they're looking for.
Yeah, but I just think it's onerous to require us to submit that every month. I just don't see the need for it. If they need it upon request, it would make sense for us to submit it, but otherwise.
The only thing I could think that they need it for is they do a lot of GIS coordinating of material that comes in, and they can go back and tell you, how deep and where the coordinates are, and if there's ever any concern about what waste was placed where. I can see that at least being a topic.
I guess the main point, as far as from a physical standpoint and our cost and expenditures, granted if Section 9 presents itself, but there's the substance of it and the dollars and everything that was negotiated is in there and correct. So other than those two corrections, I guess the committee recommendation is to approve pending those two corrections be made.
So that is a committee recommendation. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor?
Next issue was a request made by the Solid Waste Department to swap 2 backhoe attachments not being used in the department for a bush hog attachment. Discussion continued. Committee requested more information on the bush hog attachment to be presented at a future meeting, and I don't think nothing's been presented with that. Then Mr. Carter presented bids to purchase a yard truck, shown yard truck utilized to move, and what this is just a truck to move the trailers around on the lot, and if one of the trucks that we are purchasing goes down, we'll have a backup plan. 3 bids were received, Berry Iron and Metal, having the lowest bid of $20,000. Phil Stevenson made the recommendation to purchase a yard truck from Berry Iron and Metal, and Charlie Atkins, Supervisor, seconded the motion, and it was a unanimous committee recommendation to move forward with the purchase of that truck.
So it's a committee recommendation as well. Is there any more discussion? I got just a question. The yard truck, I've seen trucks that I've thought what was a yard truck, and it looks like just a little cab sitting over off to the left-hand side. Is that a yard truck?
It is in some applications. In this particular application, we wanted a vehicle that not only could maneuver the trailers in and out of the hole or around the place.
My question exactly.
But we also wanted one to be able to run to Bristol in case one of the new trucks had to have a service or something of that nature, we weren't short-handed.
That's good.
Mr. Carter said it himself. He said this truck's pretty familiar, as it's a white truck with red lettering running up and down our roads right now. So-
Okay, okay. Very good. All right. Any more discussion on that recommendation? All those in favor?
That was it.
Well, I know y'all gonna be sad, but I think that's our agenda. Supervisor comment time, Ms. White,
I'm fine, thank you.
Mr. Blevins.
I'd like to say it's nice to have Mr. Call back.
Thank you very much.
He's kicking high. Mr. Atkins.
I'd just like to say it's nice that we can have these discussions. Enjoy them. Thank you.
Mr. Gregg.
I just want to say, I think there's a few that didn't understand my motion for the position, but I ran on economic development. I've been focused on that, and I traveled with Mr. Carter to some prospects, and I see the job that's being done firsthand, and that's why I felt like I was engaged enough and educated enough on the subject to make that recommendation. I hope the community can understand that and see that, but I've invested several hours of my own time to be in on that, and I just want that to be, and I appreciate, and I will say, anybody that questions the job that he's doing should talk to two people at Speyside, Maggie and Jim, and get their input on who was instrumental in keeping this thing kicking and keeping it going, and that will solve your questions.
I've just got one thing. After talking to more than one employee of the solid waste, they want a magnet, one that you roll around that picks up metal. They've been picking up metal around where the dumpsters are at, nails and stuff like that. And it would make it a lot easier if they had some kind of magnet. You could probably have one and just travel it around or whatever, I don't know. The Bluegrass Trail was one that was wanting one most. You know where that one's at?
Yeah, you're talking about the convenience station?
Yes.
On the other side of town, old power box.
Yes.
Okay.
They get a lot of metal and stuff, and undoubtedly it's a lady that works up there, picking up nails and stuff, and, a magnet like this, like, what, $50? See if they could maybe get one to assist with that. If you don't mind. And everybody, never forget today, and have a good, safe trip home.
We do not have a continued meeting.
We do not.
We have a Tuesday night.
There's,
Oh, town and county, town and
town and county meeting.
is
I didn't
Thursday.
respond, but you accounted for that, right? Thank you.
Tuesday.
Hey, I do have one. Is it too late for me to have one more
I've
comment?
not closed meeting.
Phil ain't here to whoop me, so.
All right, Mr. Fry, go ahead.
Last thing, and I'll make it short and sweet. Folks, I understand we're all here and we all see things that need to move forward. But when we talk about chastising people, and when people are chastised because of the wage that they bring home or a typographical error, why do they want to show up and do it anymore? And I think we need to be thoughtful of that. I understand having agendas, and I understand wanting things to be a certain way, but I think we got to watch that.
Tuesday night at 6:30. Next Tuesday. I don't know. Sometimes I don't know if it's working.